Recently, I had the opportunity to shoot this sequence for a short film. The film is called People, 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 and it's directed by Emily Steele. If you're familiar with the channel, you may recognize her from a couple other short films I've shot in the past. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how we shot this with a little behind the scenes footage as well. When Emily first asked if I was available to shoot this, I was very excited because, oddly enough, I've been planning to do some sort of campfire scene for the channel, and honestly just as practice for myself. Personally, I've just been waiting until nighttime temperatures were above 20 degrees, but that's okay. This was my first time shooting a campfire scene in total darkness without access to power. I've done a couple things in the past, but they've always had either access to house power or have had some sort of practical lighting in the background like street lights, for example. So having neither one of those things made this a very interesting challenge. From the work I've done in the past, I knew that the campfire itself wouldn't be enough light to illuminate our subject as the main and only light source. So I ended up bringing 3 small lights to the shoot just to make sure all of our bases were covered. And those lights were the Aputure 300X, an Amaran T4c, and an RGB Godox tube light that I don't remember the name of, but I'll pop it up right here. But that one was more or less just a backup. And because we didn't have access to power and I didn't want to rent a generator for this shoot and haul it through the muddy woods, I broke my cardinal rule, which is to never ever solely rely on battery power for an entire shoot. Thankfully, it ended up working out, and I had plenty of extra V-mount batteries just to make sure we could get the 300X up at the very least. Just know if you do this in sub-freezing temperatures like I did, your batteries will not last nearly as long as you're used to, so just be mindful of that. So after setting up a base camp that would be out of all of our frames that we do, I walked around with Emily to find our frame for the first shot, which is this wide behind Talent. And we ended up pretty far back from their mark, maybe 30 feet or so. For camera, I used my Canon R5, which is strange because I really don't use it that much besides for photography, but I wanted to make sure that the footage would better match the C70 footage that's already been shot for this film. Now for the lens, for the wide shot, I used my Canon FD 20mm lens, and it was wide open at f2.8. The lens also had a quarter diffusion filter on the front, and that was to make sure that we bloomed the light a little more around our Talent. In terms of lighting, I tried a couple different options, and I ended up going with the 300X with a small 2-foot softbox on the front. It was placed on the ground in front of the fire and directly in front of our Talent, pointed up at them, and surprisingly, somehow it didn't catch on fire, which is so good. I also took an Amaran T4c and placed it on a C-stand, and it was on camera left, just out of frame. And this light was to illuminate some more of the trees that you see on the left-hand side of the image. That way it wasn't just complete darkness all the way around. Now, like I said, I knew the fire wouldn't do much to illuminate our Talent or just give us any light at all, but I honestly didn't expect it to do nothing. And to show you what I mean, this is our image with no lights, and this is with. That's pretty crazy if you ask me. One last problem we had to solve is the director wanted the flames to come around the Talent, like completely envelop them basically. We were having trouble getting the fire big enough and were limited on the amount of dry wood that we had. So what we did was the AD, my buddy Jameson, was on the ground behind the fire. Then after we turned the lights on, he placed a piece of cardboard that was soaked in lighter fluid directly onto the fire. And then after that, he gave the fire a nice blast of lighter fluid, and that got the flames just high enough to where Emily was happy. Jameson was also back there with a little stick, and he was poking the fire every once in a while to get these sparks to come up, which honestly looked absolutely awesome. You can hear all of our commentary in this full clip. Okay, camera's rolling. Lights on in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Let's do it. Yep.
All right, and action.
Lighter fluid.
All right, Susie, go ahead and back and forth.
Okay, little pokes, Jameson. Stop. Little
All right,
poke.
Susie, keep rocking, but just do little rocks, just little back and forth.
Okay, Jameson, give me 1 poke every 2 seconds. 1 little poke every 2 seconds.
Yeah, the flames are going crazy right now. Dial it back a little bit.
So rock a little left.
Yeah, just like you're doing, just very little back and forth.
And that right there is indie filmmaking at its finest. That brings us to this image shooting through the fire, which composition-wise I think is seriously great. However, I will admit the flickering of the firelight is a little too much, and honestly, I don't know how I didn't catch this, but I did catch it on the close-ups. The lens I used here was my Canon FD 85mm f1.2, and it had the quarter diffusion filter on it. The camera had to be really low for this one, and so I placed it on the ground and propped it up with a sandbag. Now, I don't remember exactly what my aperture was set to, but I didn't want to completely blur out the fire in the foreground, so I think it was around f3.5 or f4, somewhere around there. Lighting for this shot was super simple, almost a little too simple. All I had was an Amaran T4c set to the fire setting just out of frame on camera left, and it was held up by a Cardellini clamp on a C-stand. And just like for the wide shot, Jameson was the designated fire poker and would poke the fire every once in a while just to make sure we had some sparks in the foreground. The next two shots, the close-up and the medium close-up, were shot the exact same way. We just physically took the camera and pulled it further and pushed it closer. Both were shot with the 85mm lens, and again, they both had the quarter diffusion filter on the front. And lighting was, once again, the Amaran T4c on a C-stand, and it was in the exact same place as the shooting through the fire shot. At this point in the shoot, we had basically burned all the wood that we brought, so the light that you see on our talent's face here is just the T4c without the practical lighting effect of the fire. So this shot honestly couldn't be any easier. So tell me, what is your go-to way to shoot a campfire scene? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, I think you'll also enjoy this one as well. So definitely check it out. As always, thank you so much for spending just a little bit of time with me today, and I'll see you again very soon.